Welcome to Behind the Membership, Season 2, Episode 6. In this episode, I'm talking with Tim Topham from timtopham.com, whose membership site is all about helping piano teachers to improve both their creative skills and their teaching businesses. Tim's had his Inner Circle membership site for 2 years now, and in this episode, we dive into how he made the leap from his teaching job to a full-time membership site owner, and the challenges and opportunities that that's brought for him. We also talk about increasing member engagement with things like gamification, challenges and apps, and attracting members with webinars. And we also dive into growing a team and the importance of just getting started. And much more besides that as well. This is a great episode. Tim has a great membership site and shares some excellent advice and tips. So let's get started.
Welcome to Behind the Membership with Callie Willows. Real people, real stories, real memberships.
Today I'm joined by Tim Topham, piano teacher extraordinaire from timtopham.com and the Inner Circle membership. Thanks so much for joining me on the show today, Tim.
It's an absolute pleasure being here, Callie. I've been following what you and Mike have been up to for quite a few years now, so it's great to have finally met you and be able to provide some content for your crew.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving more into your membership and what you're up to. So speaking of that, before we kind of dive into the really good stuff, could you start by telling us a little bit about what your membership site is, what it offers, who it's for?
Sure. So it's very much a niche. It's for piano teachers to learn how to teach better, basically, if I was to put it very, very simply. It developed out of my blog. So I had a blog and then a podcast. I launched a course, and we can talk about this a little bit later, and then created the membership out of that. So it really offers training, support, courses, connection to expert teachers, and discounts for piano teachers around the world.
Awesome. And I love that you're teaching the teachers there, because there's a lot of music-based memberships out there, but most are kind of focused on the end user. So I love that you're kind of focusing on the teachers.
Yeah, it was one of the considerations when I was thinking about setting up the membership. I didn't want to go down the route of teaching students how to play, because, as you say, there are millions of YouTube channels devoted to that and videos, and already a lot of memberships. So I thought, you know what, my skill has always been in speaking at conferences and talking to teachers, so it made sense that I differentiate myself that way anyway.
Yeah. So what got you started with, you mentioned it started with a blog and a podcast. What kind of inspired you to start doing that?
So it goes back to about 2010 when I was just a regular piano teacher at a school, and I was doing some things that I thought were very normal, teaching kids the 12-bar blues, showing them how to compose, jamming with backing tracks, and a number of the other teachers at the school were popping in and asking me what I was doing and how I was doing it, and that was really cool. And I'm like, well, that was kind of what I've always done. So I started writing down blog articles about what I was doing in case it was of interest to anyone. And I also started writing down my general ideas about music education, books I've read, lectures I'd been to. And lo and behold, people started following it and getting traction and giving me their email addresses and things like that. So I was able to build an audience from nothing. And over the course of about 4 years, I worked out that one of the big things that piano teachers wanted was help teaching pop music. A lot of classical or traditional music education is based very much around classical music and the interpretation, performance, and those sorts of things. So when kids started coming in to teachers, and it's happening more and more now, wanting help teaching pop music, they really they didn't know what to do. And so I was more than happy to help them, because it's something that I've always done with my students. I've always been happy to teach them what they want to learn. So I thought, okay, I'll put a course together. So I created a course over a September school holidays. I literally was at my keyboard and computer with a microphone and an editing software, and I did everything myself. I created an 8-part video course and released that at the end of 2014, and it did very, very well. But what I found was that I didn't have much of a connection to the teachers who were taking the course, and I wanted to give them more support. So they could leave questions on each module, but they couldn't really connect with other people who were doing that course or had a similar mindset. And it wasn't easy for me to share my own ideas. And so I'd be getting these back and forth emails directly to people, answering questions and just thinking, this is insane. All this, I've got to scale this more and be able to spread this to a larger number of people. And so it was a combination of that, providing more close support and allowing people to get together as a tribe and a group, that formed my thinking around creating the membership.
Awesome. And so how long ago did you actually launch the membership then?
That was March 2016. So we've just had our second birthday. So it was approximately a year and a half or thereabouts after the launch of the first course.
Okay. And did you find that launching, having already created the course, already having built up this audience, meant that the membership launch went a lot smoother, do you think?
Yes, I think so. And I would encourage people who are considering memberships, as I think you guys do, to preferably have some kind of audience already, some group who want what it is you're offering, because it's so sad when people put all this effort into launching something and there's crickets. So having that was a big part of me being able to start. But like everyone, my membership started with a beta launch. I gave an initial crew a month's free access, and then the best discount of all time, which they're still locked into, and most of them are still there. And we built from there. Started with about, 30, 40 people, and it's grown since then.
Awesome. And so is the membership a full-time project business for you now, or are you still teaching as well?
It's full-time. As of the end of 2016, I quit my full-time teaching job at schools. So up until that point, I'd been teaching in schools for most of my career. So I quit doing that, but I still teach a few students at home. So I've got about 5 students or thereabouts, just enough to be my guinea pigs for my wacky ideas and give me a springboard for ideas and things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, with your kind of topic, it presumably helps to kind of still keep your hand in there on the teaching side of things.
Totally.
So you've had the membership for just over 2 years now. What would you say has actually been your biggest challenge so far?
I think it's changed over time. At the start, your biggest concern is always acquiring people. Will people join this? Are people prepared to pay? How much are they prepared to pay? So acquiring members and growth was the biggest challenge at the start. Now that it's growing, my biggest challenge is engagement and keeping retention up and keeping people engaged and interested in what's going on enough that they'll continue to keep a membership going. In my industry, a lot of teachers, unfortunately, don't charge enough for their own services, and 9 out of 10 of them aren't business trained, and probably half of them don't really think naturally like business people. So pricing a membership like mine is quite challenging, and it's another reason why getting that price point has been a challenge as well from the beginning. It's also harder than I think a lot of business to business memberships, even though that's what mine is. I almost don't think of it like that, because a lot of these businesses that I'm selling to are so small and niche and aren't sort of rolling around in cash. So I have to take a different approach to a lot of other memberships that clearly go enterprise or business to business in a big way.
Cool. And so you mentioned pricing having been an issue there. So has the price changed a lot since you launched?
Yes, so we started with a really good price. It was about, I think it was about $20 a month and $200 a year or thereabouts in US dollars. And it's now up to $39 a month and $399 per year. But what I do, and acquiring members, as I said, it's not so much of a stress for me now, because I've worked out something that works really well for me anyway, and that's webinars. And so what I do when I run a webinar, and I do one each month, as we tend to launch a course as well each month, I tend to offer a discount on the membership. And so that's when the majority of our members come in each month.
Awesome. So actually, let's dig into that a little bit further. So you mentioned webinars are working really well for kind of bringing those new members in. Is that a live webinar, did you say, that you're doing every month?
Right. So I've got both. I have live and automated webinars. So the live ones we do, one a month towards the end of the month normally. And we tend to get about 1,000 registered people for those. And I use Facebook advertising to drive traffic to our registration page as well. So that helps build up our numbers. So that is live each month. And then we also have a number of, I think there's probably 6 or thereabouts automated webinars that people can join anytime and that have all been previously live webinars. So I've just converted them from live to the automated system, and some are linked up to email auto-responding sequences and all that kind of juicy stuff as well.
Awesome. So you're actually based in Australia, aren't you? So I'm curious there with the webinars, whether you focus that on an Australian market or whether you still, I know you price in US dollars, so are you still targeting kind of mainly US members? How are you working that?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, and I know you guys do live events too and try and capture people around the world. The market is definitely global, and I have a large number in the US and overseas generally. So I definitely try and make sure my webinars are attendable by people in different time zones. So it tends to be early morning Australia, midnight UK, and afternoon in the US, and while there's always people we'll never catch because it's on while they're teaching in the afternoon, we always offer replays which are live for 48 hours, and then we grab the replay recording and we put it in our membership for members to grab at any time.
Cool. And so you mentioned that you do a discount on that webinar. Is that always the same discount, or do you do different offers each month?
I've tried some different offers, and I've now stuck to a pretty regular $10 off a month or $100 or sometimes $150 off a year, and we grandfather those prices in. So it's just been a matter of testing. Like anything, when you're running an online business or trying to do marketing campaigns, you've got to test different things. So going back to the time zones, I tested running one of my webinars. I did two live ones of the same webinar, and for one of them I got up at 4 a.m. in order to try and catch you guys, UK in Europe in the afternoon, and it didn't pay off in the end at all. It was not one that had many conversions. So again, it's worth testing these things. So I'm always trying new time zones. We're not mucking around too much with the discounting at the moment, and I don't want to do much more than we are. And it seems to be working. It seems to be a price point now that people are comfortable with. Awesome.
And so what's actually been the highlight of running your membership so far, do you think?
There's been lots. I take a lot of enjoyment out of online marketing and learning about business from listening to podcasts, reading blogs, and all those kinds of things. So it's very much a personally satisfying process to go through, building your own business from scratch. And as I say, trying out different things, seeing how they work, pivoting to new concepts, trying new releases, those kinds of things. So I get lots of satisfaction from that. But I think above all, the biggest satisfaction I get is from when I go and speak at events and people come up to me and say just how much of an impact their membership has had on them by trying out a course, and suddenly a student that was going to leave them has stayed and is now thriving, or they've been able to find 10 new students in the month when they thought they were going to have to close their studio, and things like this. So for me, it's very much about the feedback I get about the power of what I'm doing. And it goes for podcasting and blogging as well. Many people, you guys know the power of podcasting. It's amazing how many wonderful comments I get about just simple interviews I've had on the podcast and the effect they've had too. So I think that really is the most important thing for me.
Yeah, I love that. And as you said there, it's always, I find when you go to those kind of events, the amount of people that actually listen and pay attention to what you're doing that you don't even know about is always a little bit crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's this funny kind of celebrity status in your very small niche, which is really fun, and I really enjoy it. And as I say, it's about having that impact, and I think it comes back to as well. I had a point. The point at which I decided to go full time into the membership and quit school teaching, I can distinctly remember I did a lot of accompanying at my old school job. So this is where the pianist would play for a solo instrument student going for an exam. And I was up to my 12th rehearsal with a little 8-year-old kid playing their first year of violin and scratching away. And I was kind of thumping around on the piano, and I was just thinking, why am I doing this? This is not what I should be doing with myself. And so for me, another aspect of this whole membership, going full time and building it enough to sustain me, means that I can have a much wider impact than I would have had if I was just teaching my 30 students. I can now teach 1,000 teachers who all teach 30 students, and look at the impact that I can now have with the things that I'm doing.
And so do you feel then that being able to go full-time in the membership enabled you to grow it much more than you would have been able to if it was still kind of a sideline?
Absolutely. And I remember every day driving to work, and I would listen to podcasts at every second that I possibly could while I was working full time, writing down ideas, coming home, working all weekend, working as late at night as I could without annoying people around me. And there's only so much you can do. And it got me to the point where I was able to see the trajectory that things were going to go. And at worst case, I could go back and be a teacher at any time. So for me, it was a risk. There was a risk, but it was very much calculated. And 100%, I've been able to grow it far more effectively now that I can do it full time.
That's great to hear. And so you mentioned live events there as well. Are these your own live events, or are these other people's events that you're speaking at?
Predominantly other people's. So the national conferences in America I tend to speak at, and in Australia. I went over to London as well earlier this year. So speaking at those big conferences it's a great thing for branding and awareness and connecting with people. And I'm a great networker. I love doing that. It's not such a driver of immediate membership. So certainly if people are listening and they're thinking, should I be a public speaker, and will that bring lots of people to my membership? I'd say, well, I don't know about you guys, but my answer is no, that won't. But what it will do is give you connections. It'll allow people to see you, and you've got one more touch point in their process of deciding whether they go with you or not.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. And yeah, we've found the same thing. It's great for raising your platform. I say we, but obviously it's Mike that kind of does all this
right.
for us, really.
And he's very good too, I must say.
He'll be glad to hear that. But yeah, as you said, you don't necessarily get the direct members unless it's a really targeted audience to what you're talking about. But it is great for that, raising the platform, raising the connections, and yeah, also
exactly.
getting people that are already part of your network, I think.
Yeah. And I have run some events myself, and in conjunction with other, what I call my experts in my community. And I'd like to do more of them in the future, but it's definitely on the cards that I would like to do some big piano teaching conferences. But, there's always risks to weigh up and things like that. So it's on the cards for the future, but there's no date set yet.
Cool. And so you mentioned when we talked about challenges that kind of engagement and retention is kind of one of the challenges at the minute. So what are you actually doing to encourage that engagement with your members?
So we've tested quite a few different things. In the earlier days, we tested sending all our new members handwritten welcome cards, and all our monthly members would get little chocolate gifts at key points in their membership. And that was really successful. We got great feedback from it, and it certainly positively affected our churn rates when we first introduced that. But what we found was that it gets really expensive as well. So I've more recently, just on the starting new members off, started doing Bonjoro, which is the personalized videos, which I learned about from you guys, I think. And that's been getting some great response as well. And I can also, with that, which I couldn't do with the gifts, direct people to take action. And for me, that's introducing themselves in the forums. And I think you guys have a very similar approach. So that's on the new member side. At the moment, I'm working on the onboarding sequence, and it's like a constant iteration of what's the best thing to get people to do to have the most impact in the shortest amount of time to get them to have that quick win. And so we've been using Intercom for quite a while, and we're only now just setting up the customer attributes and event tracking so that the member onboarding is related to events that people are taking rather than just a time-based sequence. So I think that's going to have an effect as well. Obviously, general emails are important. And also for us, challenges. So we run 4-week challenges every 3 or 4 times a year generally, where we just say, right, this is our time frame, April. In fact, we're right in the middle towards the end of one now. Who wants to join? Here is your list of possible choices. We give them about 4 sections, so that teaching ideas, business ideas, personal health, and they set their goals. They journal each week, and we award a winner, in inverted commas. So I think those things are really good. But also for us, just getting the technology right so that things like progress tracking can be more effective. So people can see where they are in our roadmap or in a course, and they can get a certificate at the end. These things I didn't have when I first set things up. So they're the kinds of changes that we're making, which I hope will continue to improve retention. Oh, and I think mobile too is really important. So we've got forums in our membership with BB Press and Buddy Press, but they're really clunky on mobile. And I don't want to use them on mobile, so why would my members? So we're working really hard at an app which will present our forums more like Facebook, which is what everyone's used to and what seems to work so well. So that's another one for the future.
Oh, great. And are you having that completely custom developed, that app, or is that using a tech that's already out there?
If I had the money, I'd probably do it custom, but there is tech out there already. We're going to be shifting soon to Buddy Boss themes, in particular the Social Learner, it's called. So it's really great. I think you guys are aware of it, for a combination of if you're using LearnDash and Buddy Press. It's a really good theme for that. Buddy Boss, or the company, App Boss, I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, they've got some React Native apps that they can design to suit membership sites. And so I'm just having a look into that at the moment, because I don't want to start from scratch. There's no point reinventing the wheel and spending $50,000 if you can get something for less. So that's what we're looking into at the moment. We haven't decided on a course of action yet. But I did actually launch my own app for just the free content. So not the membership side, the podcast, the videos, social, and the blog. And I used a service called Contenta.io, which is a kind of new service that is creating apps for people like this, that they're templated, but they just draw in the information from your website. And what I found is a lot of my audience aren't very tech savvy. And so when I say, go and listen to my podcast, a lot of them don't know what a podcast is. So to be able to say to them, download the app and then click that podcast button and you can listen away, has been really good for us.
Oh, great. And so have you found that has kind of affected the amount of traffic and traction you're getting with that free content?
Yes, but it's really hard to definitely assign one to the other. So there's been an uptick for sure since we launched the app, but we've also added some Google AdWords, for example, and things like that. So it's really hard. I don't know how you guys go about this, but unless you only change one thing, which you don't really want to do, because if you're entrepreneurial, you're like, let's try everything. It's really hard to make a convincing argument that it was directly related. How do you go with that?
Yeah, this is where having two of us kind of helps, because I'm kind of the person where I get all the ideas and I'm like, let's just do all of the things. And then Mike's like, no, let's do one thing at a time so we can measure what works. But yeah.
You're more disciplined than me.
Yeah, that's, unless I can get away with doing something without Mike noticing, then yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, knowing Mike as I do from online anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think anything slips past him somehow.
No, this is why I'm not allowed to touch the website. So just one last question on the app there. So with that, it's for your free content. So are you presenting that to people when they come to your website on the desktop? Have you got kind of a pop-up or information there asking people to download the app?
We don't have a pop-up. We've just got a link at the bottom of the homepage, and it's something that I mention at when I speak in particular, and we mention it in emails, things like that. So it's not completely in your face. We probably could make it more in your face, but we've already got other pop-ups, and I'm very pop-up conscious, as I think we all should be.
Yeah, definitely. And so going back to the engagement and retention, then you mentioned about the Buddy Press forums and Intercom and creating that app for that. Are you finding that it's more a tech issue rather than people not wanting to engage in the community?
Yes, I think so. I think tech has a big impact here. You've got to make access as simple as possible for people to do what they need to do whenever they are wanting to do it. And so for most people, it's mobile. And so I think, step one is have a mobile responsive membership site, obviously. But a lot of mobile responsiveness, it's great for blogs and podcasts and static content and even content with a video on the page. But when it comes to courses and forums and things like that, it just is really awkward. So I don't think it's as much as related to people not enjoying the content. It's about just making it as easy to use as possible. And it's certainly the feedback we're getting from people when we do surveys and things like that. So it's big on my list. I tend to work in quarterly goals, and this quarter is engagement and retention quarter. So I'm working really hard on it.
Cool. And is there anything else you're implementing there then in this quarter for that engagement and retention?
Yeah, there is. Where the other thing we're looking at is coaching and mentoring groups. And a lot of members have been asking more and more about getting help, personalized help one-on-one with specific people. And I always put up my hand and say, look, I don't know everything there is to know about music education. And that's why I put this community together. I wanted lots of great minds together in one place. So one of the other things we're doing this quarter is making it really easy for people to connect with other people. And this can be members to members, and also members to our invited expert teachers, and also members to external experts who I know who aren't necessarily involved. And I've been finding that as the community has grown, we're starting to get some incredibly experienced, talented people in there who have heaps to offer. So it's just a matter of finding a way to connect the members together for that. And one other thing we're looking at, not this quarter, but later in the year, is a rewards system. So we've been using BadgeOS for points since it started, but I never actually thought it through very well. And I think a lot of people probably do this. It's like, we've got to gamify and do points and badges, but not really have an overview of how it all looks. And that's what I did. So what we're going to be doing now is a much more planned earning point system with rewards that the teachers want. Things like private coaching, lessons with expert teachers, discounts on sheet music, things like that. So that's in line for later this year. And I think that's going to be another thing that helps us with our engagement and retention.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that idea of tying the rewards in with things that actually your members are telling you that they're wanting anyway. So it makes that even more valuable.
Right. And hopefully as they complete a course, then that's going to be more value in points earning to them than posting in the forums, which will also earn points. And coming to a live coaching or a webinar, that might be a little bit more again. So it's not going to suit every member, I know that, but by encouraging some of those members to make an effort to join some of those live events, they're going to learn more, they're going to get more engaged, they're going to meet more members, they're going to hopefully make more change, which has more success, and also they get these points which they can then convert to some coaching or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And so just a couple of questions about your content there. So you mentioned your courses there. Is the site set up so that members kind of should go through things in a particular order, or is it more of a pick and mix, people come in and choose what they want to learn?
That's a good question because it's something we've been thinking about. At the moment, it's pick and mix, and people will come into the membership for different reasons. And so I think it's good that it's open, that people can do whatever they want. Some will come through a blog post perhaps about teaching beginners, and so they'll want the full beginner course. Others will come wanting to know about their business, so they want the marketing course. One thing we're trialing, again, testing out, is having a cohort of people start a course at the same time and supporting them over the course of a month to take a course with some little triggered emails here and there saying, how's it going? You should have finished this by now, and those sorts of things. And then connecting them when we update our theme, they'll be able to see much more easily who else is doing one of these courses. And so I think that will help too. They can connect and chat with each other. So yes, that's a plan for the future.
Awesome. And so are you also releasing regular new content, or is it just an existing course library people get access to?
We release one main course a month, and we also each month I do quite a few quick win videos, or I might have an expert interview that's not available elsewhere. And we also do a live coaching each month. So I'll invite on a special guest. We'll have a particular topic. So it might be teaching group improvisation or teaching preschoolers, which is coming up this month for us. And then we'll have a live coaching call with everyone in a Zoom room on screen, all having a chat about whatever it is and being able to ask questions of that expert. So they're the main sources of new content. I'm trying to think what else we do. We also add podcasts to the forums. So people can easily download things without having to enter their email addresses. And I think they're the main things. And in surveys that I've given teachers, I asked them once, what do you think about the amount of content we're putting out? Too little, too much, just right. And most of them were just right. So I'm going to stick to what we're doing. It seems to be working.
Yeah, it sounds like a good variety there each month as well. So something for everyone, essentially. Is it just you creating this content, or have you got a team helping you as well?
No, we've got a bit of a team. It's building quite quickly, which is great. As I realise that I can't do everything and I shouldn't be doing everything, I am realising that I need more help. So we've got a content manager for the blog. So he looks after everything front-facing that's free on the blog. And I've got a community manager, and she supervises all the community side of things. So running the coaching, uploading the courses, those kinds of things. She's got an assistant community manager who just does the tech side of the uploading and the course stuff from the back end. So that's a really important part of the team. And I think we've got about 12 at the moment in various freelance roles around the world. Isn't it amazing how we can use people wherever they are in the world? I think it's phenomenal. And I just encourage anyone who's listening who might be just starting or thinking of starting. I often used to listen to podcasts with, the Amy Porterfields and Pat Flynn's, and they're always like, oh, my team this and my team that. And I was like, I don't have a team. What am I meant to do? And I don't want to be that kind of person who's interviewed. So I started with just me doing everything. And my advice, I guess, would be to just find one or two of those jobs that you do regularly, which is incredibly repetitive, and that if you just recorded a screencast, if you could find someone, they could follow those instructions and do it. And for me, I think my first hire was the person who is now my community manager, who also is my podcast producer. And I asked her, first off, I found her to help me out with show notes. And that was just something I didn't want to rewatch my videos and podcasts and start writing notes on them. So it's not as big a jump as you think if you haven't got a team to start finding someone to help you out. So I'd say, just go for it. And what I'm learning is that I've got skills in certain areas, and I should be using my skills in those areas and not wasting time trying to code my website or design a logo or upload things or whatever it is, if I can find other people to do that so that I can focus on the next level stuff, the higher level things.
Yeah,
I'm taking my own advice there as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice though, because I think there is that, initially in the early days, a lot of the time you do everything because you have to, because you're building things and you're getting started. And then you just get into the habit of doing it all yourself, and actually there comes a point where you have to step back and be like, okay, is this the best use of my time? Can I hand this over to somebody else so that I can move forward on making the business even better in other ways? And I think that's great advice there on how you can start with doing that.
Yep. Absolutely. And because you can hire people hour to hour, as a freelancer on Upwork or wherever you choose to find people, it's not like you're hiring someone full time and having to pay them a salary of $100,000 a year or anything. If 1 week you only have an hour's work and the next week you have 10, then that's okay. That's part of the flexibility that affords. So go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And so, as we're on the subject, let's kind of talk about life as a membership site owner now. What kind of tasks are you actually doing on a day-to-day basis yourself?
I laugh because there's a whole list of them which I would love to hand off, and I will hand off as my next main hire when I'm able to budget for it, and that's all the marketing stuff. So looking for a campaign manager to do all the webinar promotions and the funnels and all of that stuff. So I'm doing all of that at the moment. But what I have been able to train my team to do is things like, for a webinar, I've recorded, it's like a 17-step process from start to finish of everything you need to do for a webinar, as well as, creating the coupon codes and setting up the registration page and setting up Webinar Jam and Active Campaign and all that kind of stuff. So things like that I've passed on, which is good. So my main role is engaging with my members in the forums, looking after the team and guiding them and helping them as I need to, and looking more bigger picture about courses. So we've started to get other experts to help create courses. And I actually think it's really good that I'm not doing them all, because we get these different opinions and perspectives, which is fantastic. So another part of my role, and it's another reason I love speaking and going to conferences, is building relationships with other people that I can bring in as experts, or bring in as live coaches, or as reward coaches when we get our reward system set up. So more things of that nature. So I'm trying to, as much as I can, take a bigger picture view of the business as a whole and how we can grow and develop. And so a lot of my time actually at the moment is on, for example, the onboarding and the engagement stuff, and just implementing that and working with my developer to work out how we're going to do things. So I wish I could say I'm, on a beach and I just phone in every hour, or, an hour a day or whatever it is, but I'm very much in there. I've been doing it for 2 years, but I'm very much in there on a day-to-day basis, trying to keep things improving and working on new content ideas as well.
Cool. And so how much time do you think it actually takes you each week or each month in the membership?
I should know this, shouldn't I? Because I do use rescue time. I think I probably, at my computer, it's probably more or less a working week, probably a bit more, so 40 or 50 hours, I'd guess. I would love to cut that down, and I'm trying to work less on the weekends, and I have a partner who helps me not do that. So that's definitely something that I'm working on, and I realize that it's certainly not healthy to work too much. So I do big blocks of work during the day. So a lot of people I speak to can't imagine working for themselves and actually getting anything done. They just say, "Oh, how do you not just sit and watch Netflix or, go and play with your dog or whatever it is?" And it's like, no, I don't know. I've always been really organized, and I just go, bang, I'm up early and I start doing whatever it is I'm doing. I'm quite often practicing one of these pianos behind me as well. I've been trying to do that more too.
Cool. And so you mentioned there as well that you've started getting other people involved in the membership in terms of creating content for you, the coaching side of things. Have you found it difficult to actually get other people on board with that?
No, it's been surprisingly easy, but I think it's because I've built relationships with people over time anyway, and that certainly helps. Although sometimes I do reach out and just say, "Hey, we'd love to get you involved in this whatever it is. But more often it will be because of a podcast interview, or maybe I did a Facebook Live interview with someone, and that's like, hey, you know what? I think you'd be really good at creating one of our segments of our roadmap. So we've got a roadmap that takes people through from starting their studio to pivoting to another business, even if they want to. And so, sometimes I'll go, or I'll be aware on Facebook that in one of our piano teaching groups that someone's talking and giving lots of great advice about creating big studios with hundreds of kids in them. And so I might reach out to them and go, hey, you seem to know what you're doing here. Actually, funnily enough, that's been happening a few times recently, and then I've gone into my membership and looked them up, and they're actually members already, and I hadn't actually made the connection. So that's been funny too. But just being aware of what's going on. I absorb content as well as create it, and I think that's important, just to keep your finger on the pulse of your industry and what's going on. And so just reaching out to people. And some of them I've been really surprised. I thought there is no way this person would want to create a course for little old me. And so far, I've had a few knockbacks, but most of them have been really positive, or they've done something else if they couldn't do a course.
Well, and I think that's great to hear, because I think a lot of people worry about having to create all the content themselves, or that they're not necessarily an expert in a particular topic that they want to cover. And I think, the fact that you can get other people involved is a great approach to that.
Definitely. And case in point, I built the Inner Circle membership community primarily as a way to help teachers get more creative in their lessons. As I mentioned, starting with the pop music or teaching kids how to jam and play the blues and things like that. But over time, as more members have come in, it's morphed a little bit into that plus business strategy and support. And while I've run my own studio from home, I haven't run big studios. And so that side of thing, I needed other people to help me with, because I'm not the best person to teach that. And so that's where I would definitely say to people listening, you definitely don't have to create everything in your membership. And you also don't have to pay people necessarily to create things for you. A lot of people just want to get eyeballs in front of them and their book that they've written, or their website that they've got. So definitely reach out to people and get help, because for me, it's all about the collective genius. I stole that term from somebody else, but the collective power of the group is what is most important in a membership. It's not just all about me.
Yeah, and I think you're right there, that it's not just all about you as the membership owner is a great realization to have for a lot of sites, really.
Yeah.
And so, is there anything you actually wish you'd known earlier or would do differently if you were starting again?
Oh, good question. For me, I think if I was to start this again, knowing what I know now, I would probably get the technology set up right from the start. And by that, I mean, I cobbled together the membership site myself with no developer and no designer as a little adjunct to my blog. And we're still paying the price of some of the things that I did back then and some of the shonky foundations that I laid. It really was a house of cards in some ways stacked on sand. So we've had to do a lot of shoring up more recently, particularly as it's grown, to make sure it's secure and stable. So I think if I was to do it again, I would just get that technology right. So get the right host, get the right theme. And I think your member-only theme is fantastic. There's only a few I would even consider. Yours would be one of them, and the boss. What am I thinking? Buddy Boss. Those guys. Social Learner. I think is fantastic. I would get that right, and I would do whatever I can to make it really easy to use on mobile. So that would be my advice to people. And I'm not sure. I've played around with your IP board on mobile, and I think it's not too bad. It's not quite Facebook, but it's not. It's pretty good. It's better than Buddy Press for sure. BB Press. So yeah, that would be my main kind of things to get right, I think. But I would say, don't let any of that stuff stop you from starting. And it's okay to start with a bit of a skeleton and not too much content, and you kind of did it yourself. Much better to do that than to always think it should be better and never get started.
Yeah, definitely. Just get it going. Don't get it perfect.
Correct. Minimum viable product, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so what would you say overall then the impact of having a membership has had on your life, your business?
Oh, it's been huge, Kelly. I'm more happy now than I've ever been in my working life. As much as I enjoyed teaching piano, for me, there was always something more. I was always an entrepreneurial kind of kid. I ran a lot of businesses through my life, and none of them stuck and had shown success like this one has. So I'm doing what I want. It's 100% my passion, which I'm very lucky. And all the music teachers out there, we're very lucky people, because for most of us, our passion is our profession, and that's really special. And to be able to have such an impact on people, but at the same time be master of my own destiny is great. Not having to ask people for permission to do this or that, and be able to make my own decisions and drive my own vehicle. I guess I think that's really meaningful. And for someone that wants to do that kind of thing, I can only say, just go for it. Get yourself set up right. You don't want to take a complete leap into the dark, but when you're ready, when you're not ready, but you think you might be, give it a shot, because you never know quite what will come of it.
Yeah, love that. So as we wrap up then, I'd love to know what's next for the Inner Circle. Where would you like to be in 12 months' time?
Well, obviously, continuing to grow our numbers. I would love in the next 12 months to run or be very close to running my first live event, probably here in Australia to start with, and then perhaps in the United States if I could work out how to do it right. So doing some live stuff would be great. And I guess getting the membership, the technology, all at the point where I don't have to think about it anymore and it just works. So that all I'm really concentrating on is getting more great people in to help create great information and support for teachers. And just, so I can focus on the content really solely, rather than always on the nitty gritty side of things. So that's my little vision for the next 12 months. Wish me luck.
Definitely. I don't think you'll need it, but good luck anyway. But I think there's some great goals to aim for, and it's more about that kind of just improvement and growth rather than needing to make any huge, big changes, I think.
Right. Yeah. And it comes back to what I was saying before about having an impact. I mean, it's already having a significant impact on the lives of many, many teachers and students. And if I can continue to expand that, then that's a great thing. But it's already doing what it was designed to do, which is have an impact around the world.
Yeah, it's already doing good, so you just want to make that even further.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if someone wants to check out the site, then find out more about you and what you're up to, where's the best place for them to do that?
So the best place to start is timtopham.com. So that's TIMTOPHAM.com. That's my blog and podcast. So all my free stuff. You could download my app, of course, if you're on the Google Play or Apple Store. Just search for Tim Topham, and there's a link to the membership site at the top of that page, so people can check that out. You won't. Oh yeah. You can actually check out the sales page there. What's on offer and how I've structured things. So welcome to do that. And if people have got questions, I'm more than happy. I haven't got a huge amount of time, but if I can help a few other people, particularly if they're in the music industry, I'd love to support other people in the music industry. So people can reach out to me at support@timtopham.com if they want to.
I love that. That's very generous of you. I'm sure you'll get some uptakes on that.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, it's been great speaking with you too. And I have to say, you've got a lovely looking sales page. I was looking at it the other week, and it's a really nice sales page.
Well, thank you. Isn't it funny though? I look at that and go, oh, isn't that terrible? I really need to improve that. And then I hear people say lovely things like that. So it just goes to show we're always perfectionists, and we can always see things that we can do better. But you're right. It goes back to that. Just get something up there and track and test to make sure it's working. But thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
No problem. And so, thank you so much for joining me today, Tim. And it's been a pleasure talking with you and finding out more about what you're up to. And I'm really looking forward to watching where the inner circle goes next.
Thank you very much, Callie. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and being a part of your community as well. I can only say amazing things about Member Site Academy and yours and Mike's podcast, of course. And I've learned lots just being able to ask questions of other membership site owners. And I've managed to pick up a good friend along the way in Christopher Sutton, who you had on season 1. So definitely check it out. If you're a membership site owner and listening to this, make sure you check out Member Site Academy. It is fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. The check's in the post.
I was hoping for a T-shirt, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure that could be arranged. No, thank you once again so much for joining me, Tim. It's been great talking with you.
Absolute pleasure, Callie. Thank you.
That's it for another episode, folks. Thanks once again to Tim for sharing details about his membership with us, and I love his advice on making sure you get started rather than wait for things to be perfect, even if it does mean you need to change things later on. I also really appreciated Tim's approach to building a team to support you with your membership, as well as bringing in experts to share the content creation side of things. What I love most, though, is Tim's attitude towards testing and implementing changes, and how he's not afraid to keep trying new things to make his already great membership even better. Be sure to check out Tim's site at timtopham.com, and if you'd like to pick up the transcript or show notes from this episode, head on over to themembershipguys.com/BTM16. And of course, I'd love to hear your top takeaway from this episode over in the free Facebook group at talkmemberships.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode of Behind the Membership next week.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of Behind the Membership, we invite you to check out the membersiteacademy.com. The Member Site Academy is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a membership website. So whether you're still figuring out what your idea is going to be, or whether your website is already up and running and you're just looking for ways to grow it and attract new members, then the Member Site Academy can help you to get to the next level. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive member-only discounts, perks and tools, and a supportive, active community to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement and advice, the Member Site Academy is the perfect place to be for anyone looking to start, manage and grow a successful membership website. So check it out at membersiteacademy.com.